Welcome to the Black Infant Health Podcast Series. The California Black Infant Health BIH program aims to improve health among Black mothers and babies by empowering pregnant and mothering Black women. I'm your host, Cameron Green, and today's topic is the postpartum truth. Healing and holding it together. And I think that's what we all trying to do, just hold it together. So I've got some fantastic ladies here to talk a little bit about their experiences. We're going to have a little bit of a conversation, some kitchen table conversation, I like to say it, and we'll dive right in. Why don't you introduce yourself, if you would, please?
Absolutely. So my name's Imani Aiko-Onia. I'm one of the participants and a recent graduate of the Black Infant Health program in Long Beach.
And I'm Angela Dixon-Hamlet. I'm program manager for Black Infant Health Long Beach and mental health professional.
Welcome, Imani and Angela. And I am really excited about this conversation because it touches on the topic of postpartum. And I want to start with you, Imani, and talk a little bit about what part of this experience caught you off guard? What part of the postpartum experience caught you off guard?
Ooh, great question. I'd safely say that before I had baby, I was that person who's usually very active. Someone called me a gym girly. I was working out 3-4 times a week on average. And I thought that me being active prior to giving birth would kind of prepare me for anything that came with after giving birth or after delivering my baby. And I think the main thing that kind of caught me off guard is how much, pain you can really be in from just I had a C-section, so I had to deal with a lot of the air still in my body, and a lot of that can build up and be very, very, very painful. But I'm happy that I was, for the most part, active and had strong legs that helped me be able to learn you have to learn how to walk all over again, all that when you have C-section. So I wasn't prepared for it, but when it came time for me to throw me in, coach, I was like, okay, Money, you gotta really do this. You have to lean on, your strengths because your core is so weak. I had to start all over again. So I think the biggest thing that caught me off guard is that everyone's healing journey is different, not only physically, but mentally and emotionally, and you have to treat yourself with grace. You have to, because in our minds, we're just thinking I'm just had a baby, get back up and get back to life. No, it's different for every mom. And so I have to really slow down and embrace that. So I'm happy that Black Infant Health kind of embraced me in that process and tried to prepare me as much as possible, because you can plan all day, because I am a planner, but you have to be ready to pivot for what's best for you and your health, for what's best for you and in the baby too. So that's probably the main thing that caught me off guard.
That's a perfect segue. Angela, how is BIH centering postpartum recovery and making that part of the conversation with the groups that you convene with the ladies and helping them understand that this is a natural part of the childbirth process?
Absolutely. We actually start in prenatal because I'm a believer and the staff is a believer in let's talk. Let's put it out there. Let's not sugarcoat anything. Let's be real and honest. So in the prenatal portion of our program, we begin to talk about postpartum depression, just so people have an awareness, so they're not scared of it.
Yeah.
And they know that they don't have to do it by themselves. And then once we're in postpartum, we really dig into some of the signs, some of the symptoms, and we just allow them to tell their stories, because everyone has a unique story. And so we just keep them moving and going and growing into who they are. And again, letting them know that they're heard, they're seen, and their story is valued, as well as just them as a person and a mother.
Yeah. What are some of those signs?
It could be anything past the baby blues, which is 2 to 3 weeks, is a natural process as your body's going through some changes. But when it starts to extend past there, where you're feeling restlessness, when you're feeling anxious, depression, maybe having trouble connecting with other people. They also have the mom guilt, where you just can't seem to do it right, do it enough, do it quick enough, all those kinds of things. A sense of just a mom's self-esteem kind of goes downhill, a sense of hopelessness. So we really try to help them understand what that may look like for them, and that we're there for them. And it's important to start talking about it. That's kind of that first step towards healing.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you're there to be a resource to these beautiful moms that need the support. Imani, what are some of the misconceptions around postpartum recovery with Black women?
A lot of the misconceptions, to my understanding, are that, because we're Black, we're supposed to bounce back quicker. Stop thinking that, please. I'm a human.
Yeah.
And then also too that like we're just strong all the time. Stop thinking that.
I mean, we are strong.
We are,
but we're also human.
We're human first, and with strength comes a responsibility that can be very much conscious and or unconscious. And when it comes down to you consciously being aware of your surroundings in your postpartum journey, you don't want to be strong all the time. You want help. You want support. You want to feel like me being strong isn't going to be the key determinant of anybody to being okay other than myself, right? If that makes sense. Like, so many people lean on us for everything. But if I'm in the most vulnerable state of my life and phase of my life, I mean, vulnerability and strength, they're pretty, as much as they can be in alignment, they can be very opposite to each other, So I shouldn't have to feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world when I'm having to heal literally, physically, and start all over, So I think that's one of the big things as far as just the misconceptions. Like, we don't always have the answers. We're equipped. We're going to adapt. We'll pivot real quick. But that doesn't mean that we always want to or know what that looks like.
Right.
What the other end of that looks like. And that's why you have to have people who advocate for you.
Absolutely.
And who are available to talk you through the stuff and to answer your questions. Because, a lot of those, another misconception, I just in my own experience, is that, the questions should be limited. No, I'm one of the people, I'll give you a whole list. Okay. Check mark off check mark. I have to check all my boxes because that's who I am. But just because that's the way that I am, I shouldn't be treated any different than someone who has maybe one or two questions.
That's right. That's right.
So
those first 6 weeks, the emotional highs and lows, can you talk a little bit about that? And then Angela, I want you to weigh in also about just your perspective from the lens of professionalism and what you see.
Yeah. So my first 6 weeks, I think because my birthing experience was just, I hear so many stories from other women, friends, etc. And I was one of those people who, no matter how quote, quote, healthy I was or active I was prior, you just can't be prepared for what your birthing experience looks like. And I ended up having to labor for 3 days. I tried my hardest to just have the baby naturally. And it just didn't work out that way. God had other plans. I had to get my son here and get him here safely. And I never forget, I called one of my good girlfriends. Shout out to Sheena. I called my girlfriend right before I went into surgery. Like, okay, girl, I tried. I'm only 4.5 centimeters dilated. Oh my God, what do I do? And she's like, do what's best for you and the baby. Like, that's what's most important. So I ended up having to have the C-section and, I had the baby. And then, but that first 6 weeks after, I say a good 3 weeks of it was me just forgiving myself for not having the traditional experience that I hoped to have, Treating myself with grace was like the hardest part of my postpartum. And not just when dealing directly with the baby, but just me forgiving myself for my birthing experience not being the way the planner, planned. I had to really swallow, not my pride, but just swallow the fact that imperfections are also a part of the world too. Imperfections are a part of life too. Right. Failure is a part of life too. So for that first 3 weeks of my postpartum journey, it was really me having constant conversations with myself and God. Like, okay, I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive myself. If I don't, I can't really show up in the best possible physical, emotional way for my baby. So the other 3 weeks was like, girl, I'm antsy. I want to get back to walking normal again. I want to run.
You're ready to go.
Right. But then I have my FHA. I have Miss Anger. I have Miss Gwen. Like, okay, girl, you just had a baby. I know you're trying to run a marathon, but you need to literally that the old wives' tales of baby steps was my life. Like, Imani, slow down. Yeah. You have to start all over. Your life is forever changed. But I will say 6 weeks, one day I was back in the gym. Wasn't playing no games. Yeah, absolutely. But it was tough. Mentally, it was tough. I beat myself up about it a lot. And I'm one of those moms, unfortunately, whose partner isn't here. So, my partner, unfortunately, had to miss the live birth of my son and all that. So that also tampered into or very much had an impact on my journey too. So it was kind of tough, but I'm grateful for BIH because they created that safe space for me to be able to share that,
right?
Not be judged. And even when they felt like they didn't know exactly how to support me, they tried to figure it out in some way, in some capacity, some sort of resource. Like, Shout out to Danielle, one of the nurses. She always gave me information on, and then Kershana, my family health advocate, she connected me to another mom whose partner was on bi-coastal, so she was by herself too. So just being connected, something as simple as that. I still talk to that young lady. Shout out to Iberakshi. I talk to her all the time to this day. She's in Nigeria right now. Love you. But just being supportive and like, hey, you're not alone. Like I'm here by myself too. So yeah, that first 6 months was brutal.
That's key. I see you nodding, Angela, and agreeing with some of the things that Imani's saying. What's coming up for you?
Well, I think she beautifully said, all the feelings that occur that sometimes our moms just aren't ready for. And on top of your physical body readjusting, having this beautiful new baby, but the responsibility, and then for your labor and delivery, not to have gone the way that you thought it was going to be, the way you thought it was supposed to be according to the movies and TV and even just your own birth plan. We find that we really have to help them forgive themselves because there's nothing that they didn't do. And also to help them understand that this is very common. It happens. And there's lessons to be learned to share with other moms and ways to connect, and that it's okay that things may not go perfect. In fact, that's probably one of the biggest lessons of parenting, that there's not always going to go the way that you'd like it to, but guess what? You're going to survive. You're going to do more than that. You're going to thrive.
Yeah. What are some of the signs families should be watching for with new moms?
I think many times moms hold on and hide some of their feelings. And so you really want to look at that mood change, that isolation. Some people just kind of say, oh, everything's fine. I'm good. But you see something different in their behavior. So you do want to look for those changes that may be indicating that something's really going on inside of them. Sometimes, again, people are having sleep deprivation. Maybe they're even struggling with breastfeeding. There's just so many things that I think sometimes our moms don't talk about, because they think they're not being strong and they're not being, the best mom that they can be. And so Black Infant Health really gives that safe and that brave space.
That's right.
To talk about who you are, what you're going through, not because we have all the answers, but we know that sisterhood is what's going to uplift us.
Yeah, I love that. Imani, what message would you share with a new mom who kind of feels like she might be falling apart?
Ooh, specifically in postpartum, right?
Postpartum, that's fine. You can start there.
Okay.
And you can go wherever you want after that.
Well, I'll start right before you have the baby. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. Like, I made people huddle in my room before I went off the C-section. I was not playing. I asked the doctors, because I had my baby at Long Beach Memorial, which they were amazing to me. But I was one of those moms like, okay, who are you? Who are you in the corner? Like, what do you do? Why are you here?
Yeah.
I literally made people huddle before they took me off to surgery. When I got in the operating room, I made everyone announce themselves. I said, don't touch me until I know who you are.
Good for you.
Like the anesthesiologist, when I woke up after, he was like, thank you for letting me be a part of this experience. You're amazing. You're advocating for yourself.
Wow.
And for him, that was, his story, his testament. But to me, it was like, I just want you all to know that I'm not just another body that you're performing or operating on. My name is Imani Cheluonia. My son's name is Maxis Ikena Brefo. Like, we are people, and I'm trusting you with our lives right now. Y'all need to know who I am. Like, if I have to go out, God forbid, I'm going out with a fight, okay? So definitely advocate for yourself. Whatever that looks like for you is different for every woman, every mom. Advocate for yourself. And then when it comes to postpartum, I can't say it enough. Lean into your village, to have a safe space where me and my baby can go, even if every Wednesday for postpartum class or every Tuesday for prenatal class. And I was waddling pregnant. I always felt like someone cares if I'm showing up today. Someone cares if I ate today. Someone cares if I washed my face. Little stuff like that, it matters. It really, really does. And you don't really think about it until you can't move your legs because you got epidural on your back. You feel like basically lifeless, the waist down, until you have someone trying to give you ices or ice cream to make you feel better because you flaming hot or you uncomfortable. And, just lean on your village. Lean on the people who may or may not know exactly everything that you need, but you know that they'll listen.
Mhm.
You know, and I think that's very, very important, having that as a Black woman specifically and
Yeah.
as a Black mom. Lean into your people, because there's people who do really care for us, who look out for us, whether it's through Black Infant Health, whether your immediate family, whatever that village or your village looks like. Like, tap in.
Yeah, we were talking, before we began about a new movie that's come out
Yeah.
and a certain scene where the Black woman responds, "Thank you, I feel seen," after a really kind of traumatic experience that we're reliving, right, in the movie as the movie unfolds. And being seen, I'm hearing you, and that sounds like that's resonating and rising to the top is the theme of being seen.
Absolutely.
What do you think villages should do specifically to make sure that new Black moms are seen?
Great question. I'd say that the best way is to just continue to create those environments to where it's inviting for us. You know, I think me and my mom have these conversations all the time about how as Black women, we're always often tolerated but rarely celebrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is different. Black Infant Health celebrates you as a Black mom, you as a Black woman, every step of the way. And that all has contributed to my experience as a participant, yes, but just as my perspective as a Black woman who we don't have, I don't want to say we have access to it, because those organizations, they exist out there, but I can't speak to them. This is, we're talking about Black Infant Health and everything, but I think one of the reasons why their rapport is so just grand is because of how much we do feel safe with these women, how much our kids do feel comfortable with these people around us, how much these people do advocate for us, and that all kind of contributes to a Black woman feeling heard. I think that's one of our love languages.
That's right.
I usually fighting for everybody else, advocating for everybody else, but when it comes to us, you can probably count on your hand how many people you really can
That's right.
call to have who will listen to you and not judge you or tell you what to do. So I think just continuing to create these environments to where, hey, we can eat because they feed us good. Okay, that's eating is good. That's another love language for Black women too. Maybe just women, but
Acts of service.
you give us some good food and an even better environment. Oh, I'm safe.
That's right.
The guard is down. I can be as soft as you want me to be.
That's right. You hear this, Angie?
Yes, I'm hearing this loud and clear. I'm hearing it.
Yeah. When it comes to mental health, Angie, what are some of the programs and the ways that you're, supporting the BIH participants?
Well, I think one of the main ways is to let them know that it's okay to not be okay, and that we are here to listen to you, to do anything we can to support and to help you. And you have sisters all around you.
That's right.
That want to do that too. You have to be open to that. And as you can tell, Imani is a great example of someone who is open, looking for, how can we work together? And I think we just have to get back to that and to keep recreating that in different ways. It could be me holding her baby while she gets some lunch, because it's hard to navigate holding your baby and get your plate and dish up your food, I've even had moms say to me as they're walking out the door, I'll say, oh, let me get the door for you. And they were like, no, I know how to do it. You know how we do it with a little hip motion and elbow. I said, but you don't have to do that here, because you got us.
That's right.
I said, so take advantage of that, because you may not have it at the grocery store when you go there, but this is a safe, brave space that's culturally affirming. And we are here to love on you and to lift you up in the best way that we can. And we just want you to keep growing, and we want your baby to keep growing too.
And I know there's physical changes that are associated with postpartum. Can you talk a little bit about that? And then, Imani, I'm going to come to you to talk about how we need to redefine beauty.
Well, definitely, some women have an easier time kind of bouncing back to, however they looked, prior to pregnancy. But we also tell them, it also says you kind of got that motherhood warrior, feel about you too. Things are going to look a little bit different, and that's okay. There's no judgment at Black Infant Health. And that's one of the things I really love about it, is we all look different. We're not monolithic, but we can still come together. So I think that's definitely the physical recovery is different for everybody. Some people can do it in 6 weeks, 2 weeks, sometimes it takes a year, and that's okay too. We also know that things change mentally for each person, both in terms of how they approach their family, how they feel seen and heard at that point, how they interact with their baby. There's just so many different aspects of that. So we're always trying to help them understand those signs and symptoms and to know we're not there to judge them.
Yeah. And it's okay to not to be okay.
It's okay, and you don't have to do it by yourself.
Right.
We're here to help you.
That's right. Social media drive me crazy because there's I don't want to name the rapper, but she just had a baby and she on Shade Room and she's like posting she just had the baby and look at me. And I'm like, no, that's such pressure. I think that's unnecessary. Okay. I'm not digging at her personally. I'm just saying as we thumb through, we scroll through social media, it's like we're looking at and seeing images of folks who are kind of almost rubbing in your face that, they're on the other side of their postpartum phase. Look at me.
Right.
And it's like, well, no, that's not everybody's story. So we need to redefine the standards of beauty. Amani, what do you think about that?
I think that America is one of the main countries where we literally lose people from comparison. Like people spend so much time and invest so much time trying to compare their life and their reality to someone else's. And that's, in a way, it can be very toxic. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with looking at other, people and things and how people live their lives. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's innocent. But when it comes to you feeling validated by what you see through someone else, that's where it becomes a problem for me. I think as a new mom and a first-time mom, again, super active. I was auntie before I became a mom, okay? Midriffs all the time, a little tights. I'm a mom. I thought moms wear like jogger pants and big t-shirts, but I've seen some fabulous moms.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay? So now I'm just like, I just wear like all the quote, quote imperfections that I've gotten after my son down to even the skin. We're working on it. I'm just like, thank you. I'm just like, I embrace it all because I went through all this to bring a whole human here.
That part.
Like prior, I was just like, I was one of those people like, I'm not going to let myself go. I'm going to be super active. Girl, please. That last month, I was waddling. I was tired, feet wide, nose wider. Then I had him. I'm like, oh my God, look at my face and all this stuff. But my son will be 5 months next week, actually. And I'm just like, okay, I see what Fantasia meant about the baby making hips and the, and the dips and the curves and stuff. I embrace it because it makes me, I feel like a fuller woman now, and I guess I look at my mom completely different. I always think her like, Mom, you went through a lot to bring me here. I get it. So I guess I think to answer your question, redefining beauty now, especially as a new mom or as recently given birth, just love and appreciate yourself for the work that we've done, the miracle that we've completed. Like that's beautiful in itself, honestly.
And as the listeners are listening to this fantastic episode and driving around, Angie, landing the plane here on the questions, what advice would you give to someone who is struggling in this moment, or someone who is an ally of someone who is struggling in this moment with postpartum recovery?
I think if you're struggling with this moment, just know, again, it's okay to not be okay and that you don't have to do this alone. You have people out there that really do want to help you. And sometimes we have to just let folks in a little bit. Mm-hmm. We're not, people that have to do it all ourselves all the time. And so it's really okay to open up and to ask for help. It's truly a strength to be able to do that. And I think if you're there and you see someone, that's struggling, just check in on them. It just takes really literally a minute. I have a niece who just, gave birth to a baby and she seems like she's perfectly fine. But Auntie Angie calls and says, "Are you? How are you?" Because sometimes that opens up that opportunity for them to talk. Mm-hmm. Because again, as Amani's saying, you think you got to have it all together all the time. And you're judging yourself much more than many times people are judging you. Mm-hmm. And so we just, want to keep letting them know we're here for you. We hear you. And how can we connect you with something that's going to work for you?
I love that. Amani, same question. You are a superwoman. You just gave birth to an amazing baby. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give a mom who's struggling a little bit, or even someone who's an ally to someone who is struggling a little bit with postpartum recovery?
BIH is really big about goals and gratitude. Every class they talk about goals and gratitude. They start with it and they end with it. And I think as for a new mom, just as some words of advice, create your goals, even if they're small goals, like go outside and take a walk or take a bath unbothered with the phone off, right? And also, just as much you can set a goal, reiterate your gratitude, how grateful you are to be alive, to be able to bring life into this world, to be able to see it play out, and I think that if we kind of just shift our focus to being on our goals and our gratitude, I think that everything that happens in between, that's just life, right? But the goals and the gratitude part are the things that we technically have control over. So I would just say, just be grateful to yourself for the wonderful role that you've walked into. That's God ordained, and also just be okay and loving to yourself when it comes to setting your goals, even if it's something as simple as giving yourself a compliment that day. Because goals and gratitude is life-changing when you become a parent.
I love it. Imani, thank you so much for sharing your story and for sharing, the truth, speaking truth to power about your amazing story and your wonderful journey through motherhood. And Angie, thank you for all the wisdom that you've imparted from a professional lens and all the things that we've learned about recognizing and supporting our loved ones through postpartum recovery.
Yes.
And we want to thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you. The Postpartum Truth, healing and holding it together. Of course, postpartum recovery is really, really an important topic. And Black Infant Health is an absolute resource and tool. So head over to blackinfanthealth.org and learn more about all the ways that they can support you. Thank you for tuning in.